Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast for December the 4th. And we're going to improvise today. There is an expression that into every life a little rain must fall. This week, I would adhere to the version of it that says followed by driving rain and hail. My husband has had a serious fall. It's his third serious fall in 2 weeks, and so he's been hospitalized. And the reason that I want to pre-record this for you is, I'm very excited about the information that I want to bring to you. And I'm likely to be otherwise occupied at the exact time that we normally do this podcast. So um, today we're going to build on what are your needs and what do you have to offer? And it's being coached in some ways by this book. It's one of two for peer power relationships, which is what clutter buddying is. We're only on book one. Anyway, I intend to do probably two more podcasts on this topic. And as I said the last time, the purpose solely is to make sure that everyone is ready and that you get a really good match for your selection. So I'm going to quote Judith Tyndall, who is a psychologist, who is the author of Peer Power, book 1 and 2. And she says that values are, and I believe this, values are often the basis for how we live our lives. I certainly believe that. And I think most of you, if you think about it, will also believe that that's something that you are prompted by as well. So to that point, knowing our helping, desire to help other values is very important. And when we want to enter into any type of peer support relationship, we need to look at and identify our values as they relate to helping others, and also our values as to how firmly we can respect our own boundaries and limits. So, to that end, Shalom has put together a handout, and she is going to play this pre-recorded podcast for you, and then she's going to make the handout available to you probably through a shared screen or the chat box. All right. And I want you to spend the week scaling yourself on aspects of you and the way you form relationships and how those relationships have worked out for you in the past. I want you to spend the week really digging deep on that so that when it comes time for you to choose your clutter buddy, you have a sound basis for that selection and also a sound understanding of the interchange of responsibility for helping each other meet your need and the need of the other. So you're going to rate yourself on the following, all right? And I'm going to list possible values, and you're going to add values, all right, that are important to you, I'm assuming, to the list that's going to follow. So anything that isn't incorporated that occurs to you as a value that is particularly important in your life, add it and then develop it a little so you have a really good understanding of who you are working from your value system. What I'd like you to do is to rank each as far as their importance, 1 through 5. 1 is It's really not very important to me. 5 is it is vitally important to me. All right. So you can scale it however you want between 1 and 5. And the first value is about family. Yes, Coco has fallen asleep, so she's going to be the background noise. The next value is about friends. What does friends mean to you in respect to meeting your needs and also in you reciprocating? In particular, what kind of friends have you had in the past? What do you look for in a friend? What do you look for in someone that you have an experience internally and logically that you can trust? All right. Because my hope is that you and your clutter buddy are going to have a trusting relationship. How do you know when and how it's a good idea to trust someone? What are the criteria for trust? Trust is not something that you should give away, and no one is entitled to it already, no matter what their relationship is that you and they have. Trust is earned. It is earned by reliable and consistent delivering of something that is important to both people. The second value that I want you to think about is, because this is going to play out with clutter buddying and how you're going to support each other to remediate and resolve clutter. Advancement in whatever you do, all right? Whether it's work projects or clearing the clutter. How important is advancement to you? Is it a driving principle that when you don't match up, you feel that you are less than, or that you automatically feel like a failure, or you feel significantly disappointed, and that gets in the way, that feeling, that emotion? The next value is about spirituality. Now, I'm not talking about religion necessarily. I'm talking about in terms of what guides you, what guides your spirit, what guides your life force, your energy. All right? Does meaningful work. Does the meaning of work and meaningful work make something a spiritual, gratifying relationship that you have with the activity you need to entertain and carry out in the activity that you are judging yourself for? And it doesn't matter whether you're paid for it or not. It's not just paid work or personal work. It can be rather ordinary work. The work and activity of daily living, all right, like clearing clutter, all right? What makes work and the effort you need to expend meaningful to you? It might be different for you than anybody else in attendance today. Know thyself, right? How do you make something important enough? Because things in and of themselves aren't inherently, generally anyway, important or unimportant. It's the meaning we apply to it almost always that gives something its meaning and worth. So how do you make the it important enough that you actually devote the time necessary to it? What are your values, and how important is helping others to you? Because that's what this relationship is going to be. And I want you to look at that. Are you a rescuer? Do you over emotionalize the plight of others so that you're in the boat that's sinking with them, rather than being that support person who can reach out and pull them out of the boat before it goes down, the emotional boat. All right. What prompts you to want to help others? What experiences? Judge that by the experiences that you've actually had in the past with helping others and yourself. How did those experiences turn out? Next value, having fun. How much is fun and personal care time an important value of yours? Remember I said the three things: joy, fun, and play every day in equal proportions to the work we have to do that is just part of life. We have to accept it. We have to do it on a regular basis. And the next thing is reminding yourself that no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what life events are happening right now, all right, you need to remind yourself that you are a learning, growing, developing human being. So let's talk about having fun. When was the last time you can actually say you had fun? All right. What were you doing? Is there a common theme? How often do you do it? Is it a once in a long time? Or do you make a point to re-energize yourself and find that child in yourself? Because the child in you is the fun. What does fun mean to you? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What is fun to you? And what does fun, and go back to one of your past positive experiences, what does it give you? Does it give you anything? The next aspect that I want to talk about, the next value, is your health. If you don't have health, you don't have anything really that's reliable. How is your health right now, today, mentally, physically, and emotionally? Health isn't just your body, it's your mind and your spirit as well. And it's also spiritually. The values you have and how you're living up to the values that are most important to you. I'm not talking about rules. I'm not talking about musts. I'm talking about the spiritual part of each one of us that drives you and sustains you. What shape is it in? When was the last time you devoted time to mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health? What would it look like? What are the essential components for you to feel mentally healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, and spiritually healthy, and healthy enough that you have a foundation that you can actually draw on? It's not just a fleeting experience. It's like putting money in the bank for that rainy day. All right. When was the last time you actually devoted time to improving any one of those areas in your personal life? Now let's talk about serenity. Joy, fun, and play is all well and good, but peace and serenity, lack of chaos, lack of intrusive stress and worry and all of those negatives. Serenity is also a value that we should look at. Serenity, I guess I kind of equate it to that feeling of intrinsic calm. For some people, that's the feeling of order. I know personally, I have a really low tolerance for chaos. All right. It is not playing. All right. Chaos begets chaos. It's the feeling of order, not meticulous, perfectionistic order, but that things are pretty much within reasonable boundaries of the way they need to be. That feeling of peace. Life isn't perfect, but we're glad we've got enough of it. And what about areas of your life right now that mesh with one another? All right. Serenity is when the mesh is solid. It's not perfect, but it's like that security net. You know it's there for you, inside you, and you know you can count on it. You know you've got the bases covered. It's not that life can't be better. You could improve it. You might need more of it, but you know what? I'm good. If you can honestly look at things and say, I'm good enough. It's good enough right now. I may aspire to more, but right now, you know what? I'm glad I've got what I've got. Serenity is also a factor in moving forward in the direction you want to go. Because if you have enough serenity in your life, you don't have destructive, intrusive chaos. All right. And that is what distracts people and keeps them from moving forward. They're constantly moving off to put out a bushfire, all right, or a happenstance that was preventable. All right. So serenity helps you to move forward, that sense of enough peace in the direction you want to go. Now, get your pen and paper handy? You knew I was going to ask. What I'd like you to do right now is take half a minute, and anything that has been coming up in your mind, would you please now list any other values that you have that we haven't mentioned? Right? So now that we've ticked, and those were 9 boxes that I just talked about, factors. All right. Now we're going to write down the values of those, and you're going to get a handout, don't worry. All right. That most guide you in your everyday life. Of those things, do you draw on family? Do you draw on friends? Do you draw on serenity? Do you draw on motivation, but healthy motivation, not perfectionistic motivation? What are the values, and any you've added, that guide you in your everyday life? So those are the values, all right? You're going to get your handout. You can work that through and bring it back to next week. This is actually homework. Did you think I was going to do a free podcast and just yammer at you? No, I don't. I really want this to be chewed up and digested so that the next time you need it, you've got more of it to draw on. So now let's look at another component, a really important component, and it's with us all the time, every moment of every day. Let's look at needs. And the goal in looking at needs is to better understand your own needs, right? And your own needs, particularly as they apply to any peer helping relationship, like having a clutter buddy. Having a clutter buddy is a little bit like having not your best friend, but a friend, an ally, an ally. Excuse me. One of the things that has been going right this week is this cold. All right. All right. Now, I'm going to read the following information about needs. Sorry, folks. To the left of the need, as I read it, If it's one of yours, put the title down quickly. I'll go slowly enough. And rate, is it a need of yours? Where that is a 1 through 5. All right. How would you rate the importance of that need for you? And put an X beside all of the 1 through 3s that we're going to talk about in a minute. Sorry. Has anybody here heard about Abraham Maslow? Clever guy. All right. He is probably passed now, was a well-known psychologist who developed a very important, credible theory regarding human needs, your needs and my needs. And the man knew what he was talking about. And not just needs, but this is something, if you're looking for a clutter buddy and to work with a clutter buddy, needs go hand in hand with motivation, particularly when you're talking about building a relationship with a clutter buddy. Because when you're building a relationship with a clutter buddy, you're making yourself vulnerable to a peer, right? Somebody who is similar enough to you that you're having common experiences, but you are not visa imprints of one another. You may be having those experiences in slightly different ways with different side effects. So it's about needs and motivation to move past in the direction each of you wants to go. So this needs and motivation is helpful to understanding the motivating factors that affect human behavior and human personality. Yours, mine, and everybody else's. Maslow presented these in kind of like a pyramid, sorry. Now my lips are going to go on me. Okay. He presented these in a hierarchical fashion, a pyramid, all right? 5 categories, important categories. And they evolve from the bottom up. The lowest one is a most basic need and motivation. And when you fulfill that well enough, you evolve to the next layer of needs and motivation, okay? His theory, Maslow's theory, states that you and I, no one is exempt. No one cannot, well, that one cannot move to a higher need level until the lower needs have been satisfied. We are not talking about 100% perfectly solved and met. We are talking about well enough satisfied. But that also means that that development of meeting that need is reliably good enough. All right. It's not that you don't have your bad days. Don't talk to me about bad days right now. All right. They are alive and well at my home. But we will get past it by persevering and never giving up. And in my experience today, I'm going to share a little secret with you. By giving people who want to give you a pat answer and the bums rush a hard time, it works. I'm the living proof. I'll tell you that story another time. So you can't move from the lower need to the higher need until that lower need has been satisfied well enough. The following, I'm going to give you a list, are the needs as Maslow presented them. The first, write it down. Physiological needs. PHYSIOLOGICAL. Physiological needs. Your body, your bodily needs. Excuse me a moment. Ellie, Coco, lie down. Lie down. No, Coco, now. Come, bed. That's it. Quiet. All right. Brayden can cut that. The physiological needs are the needs that are on the lowest platform of the triangle, the pyramid of evolvement. All right. So physiological needs are the lowest form, and they are directly related to survival and self-preservation. We have a basic, inviolable response to survive and to persevere. And that can also be not just physically, that can be mentally, that can be emotionally, that can be spiritually. You fight for your survival. Now, primary survival needs include things like oxygen, need for oxygen. You ever tried to go without oxygen? It doesn't work. Food, adequate amounts and quality of food. Water, a basic. Rest. How many people out there are actually making themselves develop good rest habits? And warmth. We have to stay as warm as our bodily function requires, or we will be very uncomfortable. It also includes exercise. Your body's going to seize up if you don't keep the parts moving. Excretion. Anybody tried to get along without that? How well did it work for you? And also avoidance of bodily harm. Avoidance of bodily harm. That's why we have that response, that stress response, that harm response. Okay. Now, Maslow believed, and I believe, and I think if you think about it, you'll be pretty convinced too, that these needs, these basic survival needs, are so important that a person can do or think of little else. All right. If you don't have those needs, those primary needs met satisfactorily on a reliable basis, they are going to scream at you and inconvenience you and disrupt your life until they are satisfactorily met. And if you doubt me, try to do without one of them. However, their importance starts to diminish as they become satisfied. They're not screaming at you so much. They're not causing disruption and problems in your life. All right? Because when they're met well enough, you have established a state of, write this down, equilibrium. EQUILIBRIUM. And when you reach equilibrium, that's when the next category of needs in the hierarchy starts to come into play. You are now free enough to start thinking and performing and assessing at a higher level. And the higher the level, the more consolidated you are. All right? So when each category of need is satisfied sufficiently, you reach a state of equilibrium where the next level of hierarchy comes into play. And the next level is safety needs. It's all about survival. All right. These needs are related to physical and psychological security. Now, you think of if your physical self is being threatened. You think of if your physiological security is being threatened. What's your response? And then reflect when they are safe enough. They reflect a desire to be safe from personal violence or from harm, all right, as well as to avoid the unpredictable. I hate chaos, all right? I accept unpredictability, but I try to leave myself open to the fact that I don't have to be disrupted when it happens, because even if I don't know how to handle this situation, I have survived enough others that I don't give up my confidence and my hope that what I already know is probably going to be good enough to hold the fort while I find out what is missing. All right? And I want you to be in the same position. You don't go into a panic. You don't worry about what's going to happen. If you're still standing right now with everything that has happened in your life, you may not have the answers, but you know enough to hold the fort until you find better answers for whatever is presenting itself today. In the way of, when I think personal violence, I think about things like my husband and falling. All right, we have to find a better way for that man to balance himself. Who knew? And we don't have the answers right now, but we are going to find them. All right, and in the meantime, we're going to do what we know works to hold the fort. What issue in your life is causing you personal disruption or personal, we can call it violence. It's very upsetting. All right. And what do you bring to the table already that is enough to hold the fort for you while you find better answers? Because they're out there and you are smart enough. If you persevere, you will find good enough answers to everything that is bothering you right now. Will they give you everything you want and every single thing you need? No, but you're going to be a whole lot better off for persevering. The next is love needs. That third level is love needs. These needs are related to a desire for a sense of belonging and acceptance. Is there anybody here who would not prefer? I'm not saying you desperately have to need it and you'll sell out every other thing in order to get it. You'll do anything. No. But a sense of belonging and acceptance. I'm not sure that I would trade off in order to belong and to be accepted, but it's always a whole lot happier. It's a whole lot happier and a whole lot nicer and a whole lot more serene. All right. So this is something that you're going to want to develop with your clutter buddy. It's also, love needs is also satisfaction that involves both opportunities for giving and opportunities for receiving something that we interpret as love or acceptance or belonging. The next level is esteem needs. Now, These needs go beyond love needs, all right? It's not just that sense of belonging, that sense of giving and receiving. Esteem goes beyond love needs, and it moves into a more active desire for recognition and self, understanding and being accepted for self, all right? And self-esteem, because once we are accepted for self and we know that we are with people we are compatible with, we're not the Bobbsey twins. We're not looking for some relationship that is like the Bobbsey twins or your best friend. But when you are accepted and you are validated, all right, it increases your self-esteem. Is there anybody here that doesn't happen with? Now, Maslow classified these into two subcategories, all right? One is the desire for strength and achievement or achievement. That's a very behavioral thing. And the desire for recognition and importance. That's something that is given to you. Recognition, importance, and appreciation. So desire for strength or achievement is our action. That's us doing it. We're performing the act. But the other side of the coin, do you see there's a reciprocal part here? Is the desire that we be recognized, all right? That we be treated as we're important, all right? And that icing on the cake, that extra little bit that just fills our boot, is appreciation. Now, satisfaction leads to self-confidence. All right, when you're more and more satisfied and sure of yourself or sure of something, you feel more confident about it. You feel more confident about your ability to manage that. And should it rear its ugly head again, handle it. All right. The next level is self-actualization needs. These needs, all right, come into prominence after all of the lower needs are met to a satisfactory degree. You can't jump to that. These include the need for a person to maximize the potential that they know they have, to reach the peak of unique abilities that you have. You don't have to win the Nobel Prize for anything to be worthy of that satisfaction, all right? But when you have a skill or an ability that you continue to remind yourself that you are a learning, growing, developing human being, and maybe you want to excel a bit, all right? Maybe that's a talent you have. Things like creativity, curiosity, the drive to know more, to have a curious mind, to be looking for the components to answers. Ambition. All right, nothing wrong with ambition in and of itself. It's a wonderful motivating factor. Now, conceit is a whole other thing. They're not the same thing at all. And the next one is independence. You want to know that you are valued and acknowledged for being an independent person, for your unique qualities, skills, and a healthy mixture of failings and faults. They're all related to self-actualization. So right now, where would you say you are on being the best that you can be? unlike, now this is the author's idea, unlike the house pet, which only strives to be well-fed, warm, and cuddled, the human animal in us strives for a whole lot more. That's just natural. And it often takes the form of expressions through creating or competitive efforts, all right, in things like the arts, sciences, maths, um, athletics, religious life. And there are other areas in one's life where we also especially want to reach our peak of ability and self-actualize. Maslow his study talks about self-actualizing needs, getting to be, and if you're mourning that you're not there, that's a really good indicator that you know it's worth the effort to chip away at it until you gradually climb that pyramid. All right. So Maslow's study talks about self-actualizing needs. So both as an individual's needs, but also probably started with our family's needs, the family we grew up in, family of origin, because most people have lived and still to some degree, even if it's a distant relationship, live in a context of some form of joining a family or a family type relationship group. Each of us, however, have a different level of need to be seen as unique, but we already are unique. We have a different need though. You know, in school, there was always the person who wanted to be recognized, who wanted to be acknowledged, all right? And there were others who were quieter and less in need of that validation. We all are somewhere on that continuum. Even the person who is as quiet as a church mouse. Esteem needs are the following: self-respect. Right? It's about esteem and self-respect. It's recognition, self-esteem, stature, prestige, attention. Now, you can see where that is an increasing slope up to a higher need for it. It's important that you recognize that it feels good. It's not the blood in your veins or the oxygen in your lungs, but to be held in a reasonable level of respect, which is esteem, helps to solidify our self-respect. Where are you getting your dose of esteem? Because you need it. Love needs are a little different. They're the following. They're about acceptance. All right. Accepting love and giving love, receiving and giving. Friendship is a form of love. Understanding, that's really about acceptance, right? Understanding is a love need. Safety needs are the following: structure, order, security, protection, freedom from fear. Physiological needs are the following: food, warmth, water, and it's a lower level needs are met. Higher levels come into play. As lower level needs are met, higher level needs, you move up the pyramid. Now the question, excuse me, is for each one of those needs, all right, what's your need? It's all well and good to learn the theory, but only if you're going to apply it to yourself and learn something that you didn't know about yourself or something else yesterday. I want you to work on developing more self-understanding and self-respect. What is your need? Take your pen and paper right now, and in any one of those that we talked about, what's your level of need? Remember, you're getting the handout, so don't panic if you can't remember everything. Now, here's another question. Okay, what's your need? How well is it being met? Now, there's some bad news. And the bad news is no one is responsible for meeting your needs. No one has responsibility for meeting your needs. You and I, and every one of the rest of us, are responsible for knowing what our needs are, respecting it, and going out and getting our needs met in a healthy way well enough. We are responsible. So it isn't that somebody else isn't giving you something. Even in the case where your need is safety, all right, you know that. If it's physical safety, you know you need physical safety. Where can you get that need met? Emotional safety. What do you need to do? Where are the answers? We don't have to have all the answers inside ourselves. Okay, back to my husband's situation. It's as simple as that. All right. Yeah, the man's falling. And no one can say exactly why. It's a multifactorial situation. All right. And tell me what that changes. All right. Okay. We know what the factors are. It doesn't change anything. So what did I do today? I listened to the doctors and went, we're in big trouble here. And particularly when they wanted to release him without all the tests done. Didn't get away with it though. And it's okay, Braden will erase that. I was talking, and the answers are around us. This is what excites me and what I really want you to understand. All right. Do you think some professional gave me not an answer, but a place to go for more information and help? No. I was in a counseling session today. No, they just gave me the multifactorial speech. Okay. I was in a counseling session with a client today. And they had heard that their session was going to be delayed because blah, blah of the situation. They told me about falls programs. And I thought, well, they live in like another province. And I thought, well, gee, I wish we had that. And then I thought, wait, do you know you don't? So I asked, who knew? This person wasn't a professional. There is wisdom around you. Ask and you shall receive. All right. And keep asking until you do get better answers. Guess what? I didn't know this. Not half a mile away, there is a community center that has a falls prevention program. Guess who's going to join it? The answers are around us. We need to take responsibility for knowing our needs and asking and asking and asking, not for help, and not for answers, We'll find our own answers. But for better information, all right, that's what persistence and perseverance will get you. Was I in the mood to do that today? No, I was not in the mood to do it. But there it was right in front of me, handed to me. And I picked it up and I researched it locally. And what do you know? All right, the answers sometimes, quite often actually, are all around us. We need to take responsibility. Get our shovels out and start digging, people. What are your needs, especially your unmet ones? And how does the level that you have satisfied that need, all right, make you available for someone else? That's what happened today. That's no intention. The person had no intention, didn't even realize how important that was. And all the time it was floating around in their head. It just needed a little poke from me. And tell the truth. That's the other thing. Tell the truth. Tell the truth and the answers. I believe it. The more you tell the truth, the more you will bring those answers into yourself. Okay? Because other people like to help too, even just with information. So a peer relationship like a clutter buddy is precisely what we're talking about, that I have needs and I expect you to help with the needs by supporting me, all right, not giving me the answers, and I will do the same for you. Or are one of those needs something that you require of your clutter buddy? All right. Is there a need that you have? I need to be reminded. I need to be this. I need that we keep the schedule. What do you need from your clutter buddy? All right. To at least accept that the need is there, whether there's any expectation, whatever those needs are between the two of you, whether there's any expectation that they will contribute positively to it, the other person. Maybe I talked to many people today. None of them said that, except the last person I talked to today. They all knew the same thing. Were the others being unhelpful? No, they didn't have the background. They didn't have the experience. All right. So to at least accept the need is there, whether there's any expectation that the other person will be able to contribute positively to good information, better information, or that they will contribute positively or simply respect the fact it's a fact that is true for you. Maybe they just get to know you a little better. All right. Because you tell the truth. You don't lean on the person, but you're truthful. Now let's go back over the list and put a tick beside those needs that you hope will be met through or as part of your peer helping another person and the reciprocity, that relationship. Okay, a la your clutter buddy. All right. Do you have some idea of how your peer clutter buddy might be able and perhaps willing to meet specific needs of yours? Do you have any idea? As you identify those needs for them, because you're going to have to identify the needs. It's not their job to dig and dig and dig, right? None of us comes into this world alone, I believe this, without some connection to someone or something. So let's, for argument's sake, we call that our family. Let's look at the assets, the benefits and the strengths, the positives that healthy connections make, and that we can learn to connect and get from that connection. All right. So generally, that's family support. Now we're going to look at support generally in some way, more or less like family life. It doesn't have to be specifically family life, but to whatever degree you had a family life, all right, it has the potential to provide us with higher levels of love and support, at least for some of the members of our family, acceptance and commonality. To what degree was that true for you? 1 through 5. Is that history, that experience, an asset that you can count on? Now, rank all of your family support from all members, rank it 1 to 5. All right. 1 being marvelous, reliable, steady, dependable. 5 being largely not reliably available, under supported. All right. We also have, if we didn't have that in a family setting, let's crack it down a bit. Positive family connection. This is a doozy for many. To what degree do you and your parents or the people who acted as parents communicate positively? Or did you communicate if they're not with you? All right. To what degree were you or are you still willing to seek advice and counsel from parents or parent figures who were your primary attachment figures? 3. If not, are there other adult relationships where you receive support from? How many of those relationships can you actually count on? 4. Do you live in an area? Sometimes it's a neighborhood, like a neighborhood. Do you have a positive, caring experience with others that you live in close proximity with? 5. When you went to school and you had that school experience, was it a caring school climate? Now, some of us have to look way back. All right, but let's do it. Did school provide us with a caring, encouraging, supportive environment? We were very vulnerable and very impressionable in that phase. Does any of that stick with you, positively or negatively? Because to what degree did that happen? And was it reliable? 6. This is not altogether a good thing. Sometimes it's called helicopter parenting, but only in the extreme. Parental involvement in schooling. That's Coco, sorry, people. To what, I guess, apparently I'm boring. To what degree did your parent or parents actively involve themselves in helping you succeed in school? Did you ever have difficulties? Did you ever need someone to take your part? And did they? 7. How about community values? You know the community you grew up in? Did you perceive that community and the adults in that community as valuing you, accepting you, liking you, approving of you, and others of your age cohort? 8. Way back in your younger years, were you treated as a resource? Were you seen and treated as a resource? that you knew things, you could help. All right. You were a part of something. Being a resource is not a bad thing necessarily. All right. And were you given useful roles at home or in your community? Coco, 9. I think I should wrap this up where Coco's going to drown us out. What was the opportunity to provide service? Was there an opportunity to provide service to others? Because that's what you're entering into in a clutter buddy relationship, right? You're not going to be a rescuer, but you're going to be an equal partner in a co-helpful role support. And did you learn how to contribute to another's opportunity and support? Have you learned that? Do you know how to contribute? Do you know what your side of the line looks like and how to stay on it or behind it? If you did have the opportunity to provide service to others, what form did it take? And how long did you provide it? How much experience? How broad an experience? How limited an experience? 10. Now let's look at safety as a youth. Did you feel safe at home? What do you bring to the table as far as feeling safe in a relationship? Did you feel safe at school? Were you bullied? Did you feel safe in your neighborhood? Do you bring that feeling of safety, personal safety? And that carries with it some confidence too. Not conceit, but confidence. I don't know how I'm going to be okay, but I'm pretty darn sure I will be at least okay. 11. Did your family teach you boundaries? Were there clear rules and consequences? They did you an enormous favor if they did. And did those clear rules and consequences, rather, help you monitor yourself? Help you learn to monitor yourself? And do you still do that no matter where you were throughout the day? You knew what was expected of you, and you knew you were worth not betraying your values. 12. Same question for school. Were there school boundaries? And did school provide clear rules and consequences? How do you do with boundaries and limits? How well today do you do with boundaries and limits? Both setting them for others, setting them for yourself, or setting them with others, and also respecting other people's boundaries, which may be different from yours. 13. There are 20 of these, by the way. 13. Were there boundaries set in the neighborhood? All right. Did you live in a collective neighborhood of people who had maybe not spoken rules, but you knew what the behaviors were that were expected in your neighborhood, good, bad, or indifferent? Did neighbors take responsibility for monitoring children, for monitoring young people? And you, as a young person, did you feel safe as a result of that monitoring, that you weren't alone no matter what was going on, and somebody was probably watching, or you could go to them for help if you needed it? All right. Was there anyone who stood out as guiding people who were in trouble? celebrating with you when you had success. You know, your neighbors, right? When you do something, do this, I heard you did whatever, and you gave that speech or whatever it was. Was it that kind of neighborhood? Did they kind of join in a little or, give you not a concrete pat on the back, but a sort of pat on the back? Okay. Did they, in a realistic way, support the other members of the neighborhood and teach you how to do the same, how to be part of a collective? 14. We're going to talk a little bit about adult role models in your life. In your younger life, did your parents, if you're like me, it takes a real effort to think back that far. Did your parents and other adults model positive, responsible behavior or not? Were they too lenient? Were they too self-indulgent themselves? Or did they over monitor and over model? It was too unrealistically strict. To what degree could you count on their positive presence as a given? Today, how do you handle a lack of predictability? 15. Growing up, did you have a positive peer influence? Did you have best friends? Who were they? What were they like? What did somebody have to be like to be a good friend of yours? What kind of values does that speak to? What were their qualities? What did you enjoy the most? What did you enjoy the least about your relationships with them? Did they model responsible behavior as your peer? Because this is some of what you'll draw on as you connect with your clutter buddy. Okay, old habits die hard. And you can summon up the positives. You can compensate for the negatives if you're aware. That's why we're doing this. Nobody said everybody had to have a kumbaya moment every day of their life. And that's the only way to be mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually healthy. All right. But are you aware of the yeses and nos, the pluses and minuses, so that you are eyes open, right, present in the relationship? We need to be aware of where we're coming from. We are not doomed for where we come from, but it does create little vulnerabilities that we need to be and remain aware of. We need to be aware of what we are bringing with us. 16. Now let's talk about high expectations. We're getting into the good stuff. Did you have them growing up? High expectations? Did your parents and teachers encourage you as a young person to have high expectations? Or were you allowed to know that it's good enough to do well? To do your honest, legitimate best? Are you okay with that? Or does that sound like making excuses? Did you have to excel? Were you pressured to excel? And did you feel the pressure? Are you going to repeat that pressure for yourself and for your clutter buddy? Will it be good enough? Or were you pressured that somehow if you didn't manage to perform well enough, you mattered less? You were less important and you were less validated. In fact, you were less legitimate. Do you carry that pressure with you today? How many out there? It's not an uncommon pressure. Is there any chance that you have an expectation, that expectation, and you will carry it with you to whoever is your clutter buddy? We're not doing enough. We're not accomplishing enough. I'm not enough. Enough is the word you're looking for. In this little dilemma, enough comes up a lot. When is enough good enough? Can you be satisfied with enough? Good enough. If you nodded yes, is it true that you actually can be satisfied with what well and truly is enough? You'd be satisfied with that. 17, I did mention there were 20. Okay. How much do you love creative activities? How much do you crave them? Or did you crave them as a youngster? Because we are sometimes when we're vulnerable, we are pretty good facsimiles of a youngsterdom. We are the current being replicating youngsterdom. Okay. Did you engage in any extracurricular activities like music, theater, athletics? And if you were, whatever it was, playing piano, how driven were you? Or was being part of a group and doing something well enough satisfying and rewarding? Are you a driven person who will not allow yourself to be satisfied? Do you bring that to the relationship? Did you need to win? Do you still need to win? And when you didn't win, when you don't win, do you blame yourself and mourn and grieve and feel like if it wasn't good enough, you lost? Is there any part of you that still does either one of those things? It doesn't count because it's not good enough. The best progress I could make today wasn't enough. It's a failure. It's not good enough. Depending on where you are on the scale of success or need to work seriously, all right, at something because the buildup is there, you need to keep an eye on that. That is the fastest way to defeat yourself. 18. As a youth, what was your involvement in clubs and organizations? Yes, it does relate to clutter buddying. Whether at school or outside of the school, in the community, do you know how to function and participate appropriately as a team member? Big question. We're going to repeat that one. Wherever you are, do you know how to function and participate appropriately as a team member? Or are you an individual performer? Are you a lone wolf? You don't like to be held back by others. You know you need the help, but you don't like to be held back. Look at that seriously, because you and your clutter buddy, sorry, my lips aren't working anymore. Your clutter buddy, you're going to be a team. And you're going to be a team on something that both of you are vulnerable about. Are you ready to give and take? 19, we're almost there. Now let's look at community, all right, through the eyes of faith. Faith is spirituality. It is not necessarily religion. Do you have any particular values, beliefs, limitations, and requirements? Are you flexible? Are you flexible enough to work with another person and accept their positives, their successes, and the ways that they aren't going to make the mark either at some time? Are you able, all right, to acknowledge those values, beliefs, and limitations and requirements of yourself and or others that relate to possibly your family values, your personal values, maybe religious beliefs that you have? How much does the other person in that clutter buddy relationship need to fit those criteria that your values demand? All right. How much do they need to fit within those parameters for you to feel like you are with someone enough like yourself and that you have something in common with them other than clutter as people, as vulnerable people? And you can appreciate and respect their viewpoints, their values, so long as they're not being thrust upon you. All right. And that they're not, and you're not, despite whatever is done or not done, ending up pulling the rug out from under each other by, oh, it's not good enough. I feel like ending on the negative. I feel like I should have done more. I didn't. Don't be a clutter buddy who focuses on what's missing. You're not going to get anywhere if you focus on what's missing. Focus on what's in front of you and do your best. All right? As well, so long as their viewpoints, the other person's viewpoints, are healthy and productive. It's not productive to always end on the negative or to start off on the negative. Put it down. If it's too heavy, put it down and do whatever part of it you can do. It's the can-do attitude. All right. 20. Last one. Time at home. How much are you really a homebody? Or are you a social butterfly? All right. Are you a busy organizer? How important is it for you that you are home, and when you return, it's got to be a perfect place that meets a dream that you have? And you blame yourself, you beat yourself up, and you suck the positive energy out of yourself when you walk in and it's cluttered. That dream has eluded you up till now. Do you constantly empty the bucket when you walk in the door? Rather than saying, I remember when it was a fair bit worse than this. And you know what? You corner, you're the job of the day. Because this question is really about how satisfied will you be? How much are you able to be satisfied? Will you let yourself be satisfied with less than perfect? With just plain good enough? Will you allow yourself to be satisfied in yourself? And will you allow yourself to be satisfied in the other person as a peer relationship clutter buddy? How did you rate yourself in those 20 external asset elements? How did you rate yourself? Is there any work that we need to do together, you and me, in this little prep thing? Maybe another 2 podcasts, all right, that would bring the people who want a clutter buddy into a state of relative acceptance to any of the external assets. Okay. Before, if we need to do a little cleanup in aisle 11 to set some rules and guidelines and whatever, before you commence choosing a clutter buddy, who's ready? Hands up. I want it in the chat box. Okay. And who would like to do a little, we're going to do anyway, a little further work? What would it be that you know right now that you need to have covered for your benefit and for the benefit of whoever you're going to choose as a clutter buddy? Who is ready and who would like to do a little further work to be ready, willing, and able? Because I'd like to enter your thoughts about, I'd like you to enter your thoughts about yourself in the chat box, and I'll look at them after the podcast. All right. And I will figure out what our next installment needs to be so that hopefully within 2 more installments of podcasts, we can have everybody who wants to be ready and figure out a way to begin to choose a clutter buddy. All right. And I think my idea of a little resume or a little story about yourself, but a resume is particularly handy. I think we maybe find a way to post those and have people with, you don't have to put your name on them. All right. And have people have a look at them. All right. And then choose 1 or 2, rate. This would be my first choice. This would be my second choice. And why it would be your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. All right. And at the same time, you might be looking at the resume you submit and seeing, does this connect? Does this look like a positive, doable, healthy buddy? All right. Choose well. And now, Shalom is going to somehow make the handout available to you. So stay tuned. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Can you do it? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.